Hey guys, Matt here. Just want to thank you for listening to today's show. Learning from 3.5 years of the School Zone School Fundraising Ideas podcast.
Welcome to Growing the Seed, the podcast where we document the steps we take to build the Sowing Seed podcast, the business, and the brand. We'll share what works, and we'll share the challenges. Now, here's your host, who incidentally doesn't believe in Bigfoot, but Bigfoot believes in him, Matt Miller.
You've probably heard me mention over the last going on year that aside from running our national franchise, School Spirit Vending, I also started a school fundraising podcast here about 3.5 years ago called The School Zone. We've got about 130 episodes, maybe 140 episodes in the can now. And along the way, I've interviewed well over 100 owners of successful school fundraising and resource companies in the school space. I started the show just as a way to get to know others in the industry, to develop some relationships, and also to provide some added value for those school volunteers, educators, and administrators out there who are already busy educating and serving our kids, and oftentimes only have a short conversation on the trade show floor by which to make decisions about what programs and what fundraising opportunities there are to serve their school. So initially, the show started out as an every other week show. Once we got in the groove and figured out a workflow, then decided to change it up a little bit and to actually go on site at some of the trade shows that we work in the school fundraising industry, set up a table, promote the show, and interview others who are exhibiting at that same show. And in the process, knock out, 20, 30 plus episodes in the span of a couple of days by batching those interviews while on site. We've gotten today to where we've gotten enough of a name for ourselves in the school fundraising space that companies are starting to share with one another. And we're having companies now reach out to us in many cases for an opportunity to be on the show. But that's 3.5 years in the making. The audience continues to grow. There are certain times of the year where we have higher listenership than others because there are certain times of the year where school volunteers, educators, and administrators are thinking about the type of stuff we talk about on the show. And along the way, in the interest of monetizing and at least helping pay for the editing and the show notes and all those things that are being done by others behind the scenes, we launched an advertising platform called the Best School Fundraising and Resource Ideas Guide. Of course, this current version is for 2018. And you can find that at schoolzonepodcast.com if you know anybody who might have need for raising funds for their school or their organization. I encourage you to check that out and to check the show out as well, or at least refer it and recommend it to somebody along the way. Well, the guide gives us an opportunity to go deeper, to highlight some of the companies that have been on the podcast. And for a nominal fee, they have the ability to be highlighted in that guide. And then, of course, that guide is made available for free to schools, educators, administrators, and volunteers. Gives them a deeper dive, a much more condensed version of things, and a place to at least start their school fundraising search. 3.5 years in, and the School Zone is starting to become a business that can stand on its own. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, like you've heard me say before, this is all a marathon, guys. It's not a sprint. And just like with sowing seed, we've taken the long-term view and are doing what we can day in and day out to do our part. Ultimately, it takes time. Ultimately, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of relationship. There's a lot of little things along the way that help contribute to a growing audience that help contribute to a platform that one day will become or have its own trade show, which will bring about the writing of a book or a variety of books and who knows what else. Now, I couldn't do it on my own. I've got a team that works in support of most of that. I just end up getting a chance to show up and be the talent and do the interviews primarily. But the thing I love is the opportunity to serve the community where my family makes our money with SSV, to provide value and to slowly but surely become known as the go-to guy in that space 3.5+ years later. What are you working on? What do you have aspirations to do or become? Are you willing to put forth that steady and consistent effort when initially nobody is listening at all? God bless you guys.
Thanks for listening. Check out our website, sowingseed.net, the Sowing Seed channel on YouTube, and if you got something out of today's podcast, give us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. Until next time, go plant the seed you need to succeed.